Europe, a continent where beauty is woven into time itself. Europe is a continent where beauty seems woven into the very fabric of time. Every place here is not just a point on the map, but a living story, a reflection of eras, cultures, and human ambition. From majestic mountains to elegant cities, from azure coastlines to ancient villages, Europe offers an extraordinary diversity of landscapes and experiences. In this journey, we will explore 10 of the most beautiful places in Europe, not only to admire their appearance, but also to understand how and why they became what we see today. Santorini, the island of light and fire, Greece. Santorini is not just one of the most recognizable islands in the world, but the result of one of the most powerful natural disasters in history. Around 3,600 years ago, one of the largest volcanic eruptions ever recorded occurred here. The central part of the island collapsed into the sea, forming a massive caldera, a giant bowl now filled with water. It is precisely because of this event that Santorini has its unique shape. Towering cliffs dropping dramatically into the deep blue sea and whitewashed houses that seem almost glued to their edges. The Greek inhabitants originally built their homes on the tops of these cliffs, not for beauty, but for strategy. This position helped protect them from pirates who raided the islands of the Aegean Sea for centuries. The white color of the buildings is also practical, rather than purely aesthetic. It reflects sunlight and helps keep interiors cool in the hot Mediterranean climate. Meanwhile, the famous blue domes of the churches symbolize the two elements that define life on the island, the sky and the sea. Today, Santorini has become a symbol of romance, breathtaking sunsets, and the perfect harmony between nature and architecture. 2. The Dolomites, Italy's stone masterpiece. The Dolomites are mountains that look as if they were carved from rose-colored marble. Their unusual color comes from the mineral dolomite, which gives the rock its soft tone that changes depending on the light. One of the most fascinating phenomena here is known as enrosadira. At sunset, the mountains glow in shades of pink, orange, and even violet. This is not just a visual illusion, but the result of sunlight reflecting off the unique mineral composition of the rocks. The history of these mountains goes back to ancient times, when this entire region was covered by a tropical sea. Over millions of years, coral and marine organisms turned into stone, and tectonic movements eventually lifted them to heights of several thousand meters. Today, the Dolomites are not only a natural wonder, but also a cultural region where Italian and Austrian traditions blend together. Mountain villages were built here to withstand harsh conditions, creating a distinctive architecture perfectly adapted to the landscape. Number 3. Paris, a city redesigned for beauty, France. Paris is a rare example of a city that was deliberately redesigned with beauty in mind. In the 19th century, Emperor Napoleon III commissioned architect Georges-Eugène Haussmann to completely transform the city. Narrow medieval streets were replaced with wide boulevards, symmetrical facades, parks, and grand squares. These changes were made not only for aesthetic reasons, but also to improve sanitation and reduce the risk of revolutionary barricades. The Eiffel Tower, built for the 1889 World's Fair, was initially considered ugly and temporary. Over time, however, it became the most recognizable symbol of France. Paris is a city where every detail feels intentional, from the bridges crossing the Seine to the elegant street lamps. Its beauty is not accidental, but the result of careful urban planning. Number 4. Plitvice Lakes, a living water system, Croatia. This national park is one of the most unusual in the world. Instead of one large lake, it consists of a system of 16 lakes connected by hundreds of waterfalls. The main uniqueness of Plitvice lies in its living nature. The lakes are constantly changing due to the natural formation of travertine barriers. Mineral-rich water continuously creates new natural dams, forming cascades and waterfalls. The color of the water varies from emerald green to bright turquoise, depending on the light and the concentration of minerals. People have barely interfered with the creation of this place. Instead, they have focused on preserving its pristine nature. Wooden pathways were carefully built to avoid disturbing the ecosystem. 5. The Norwegian fjords, the power of glaciers. The Norwegian fjords are deep sea inlets surrounded by steep cliffs. They were formed during the Ice Age, when massive glaciers carved deep valleys that were later filled with seawater. One of the most famous is the Geiranger Fjord, a narrow inlet where waterfalls plunge directly from the cliffs into the water below. Life in these regions has always been challenging, yet people learned to adapt to the natural conditions. They built villages on narrow strips of land and relied on fishing and seafaring for survival. The fjords are a perfect example of how harsh nature can be both intimidating and incredibly beautiful at the same time. 6. Venice, the city on water, Italy. Venice is a city quite literally built on water. It stands on thousands of wooden piles driven deep into the floor of a lagoon. The city originally emerged as a refuge from barbarian invasions. People settled on islands that were difficult for enemies to reach. Over time, Venice grew into a powerful maritime republic and an important center of trade between Europe and the East. Canals replaced streets and gondolas replaced carriages. Remarkably, the wooden foundations have not rotted. They have been preserved thanks to the lack of oxygen underwater, which prevents decay. Number 7. The Swiss Alps, the ideal of mountain Europe. The Swiss Alps represent a symbol of purity, order, and natural harmony. Here, dramatic mountain landscapes blend seamlessly with perfectly maintained villages and green alpine meadows. What makes this region unique is that people did not try to conquer nature, but instead adapted to it. Villages were designed to withstand avalanches and harsh winters. The railways built through these mountains are still considered masterpieces of engineering. 8. Prague, Europe's fairy tale city, Czech Republic. Prague has preserved much of its medieval appearance almost unchanged. The city avoided large-scale destruction, which allows visitors to see architecture from many different historical periods. The Charles Bridge was built in the 14th century and still connects the two banks of the Vltava River today. Prague feels like a setting from a fairy tale, thanks to its unique combination of Gothic, Baroque, and Renaissance architecture. 9. Iceland, the land of fire and ice. Iceland is one of the most extraordinary places on Earth. Here, active volcanoes exist side by side with massive glaciers. The island itself was formed through volcanic activity along the boundary of tectonic plates. Geysers, lava fields, and powerful waterfalls create landscapes that often feel more like another planet than part of Europe. Number 10. Amsterdam, harmony between water and city, Netherlands. Amsterdam is a city where everything revolves around water. Its famous canals were constructed in the 17th century to manage water levels and support trade. Many of the houses were built narrow because taxes were once based on the width of the facade. This resulted in the city's distinctive architectural style. Amsterdam stands as an example of how people can live in harmony with nature rather than trying to completely control it. Conclusion. The most beautiful places in Europe are not just natural or architectural masterpieces. They are the result of a long interaction between humanity and the natural world. In some places, nature created the foundation while humans simply highlighted its beauty. In others, people built cities inspired by ideas of harmony and order. Each of these places tells a story about struggle, adaptation, inspiration, and the human desire for beauty. And perhaps this is exactly why Europe remains so captivating, because its beauty is not accidental, but shaped by time itself.